Hello everyone, Sableye here and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be looking at some of the Pokemon returning in the Indigo Disc DLC that aren't necessarily getting as much hype or love as the rest of the crew. So you know the Incineroars are coming back, it's getting hyped up, the Smeargle, the Legendary Beast, they're all getting hyped up to no ends, right? Let's talk about some of these lesser hyped up Mons that I think still have a place in this Scarlet and Violet meta. So we're going to go jump right into that. We're going to kick this list off with Perior. Now, Perior is a Pokemon that historically has not been great in VGC. It had its niche usage at the beginning of the Sword and Shield era with the Dynamax. You know, you'd self-proc your policy and then you just launch big damage, which kind of was the case with most Dynamax users, right? Like that was kind of how that format played. Now, I didn't think Perior was going to ever see usage outside of that. However, with the ability to terrestrialize and solid rock, I think things get opened to become a lot of cool options for Perior. I don't know if that sentence was English, but besides the point, a lot of cool options open up for Perior now. Whether you want to go Terra Grass, whether you want to go Terra Water. But solid rock was never really saving you from anything because you were 4 times weak to water anyways. So taking 75% of the damage from a water move or taking 75% of damage from a grass move was never really going to save you. It wasn't going to keep you alive, right? But now with Solid Rock and the ability to Terra, maybe I Terra into that water type, only have 2 weaknesses. Maybe I go grass type, right? There is a lot of cool options for Perior to Terra into and then just abuse an actually really incredible ability, right? If you're hitting me super effectively, the damage is getting 75%, right? And that is an incredible ability. You know, I guess you could also, in theory, go Lightning Rod, Terra Flying if you really wanted to be cool, or Lightning Rod, Terra Water. There's a lot of options here, but I think Solid Rock is really where the secret lies to utilizing Perior. Just because, like I said, like before, it's okay. This water move is gonna completely take me out. Now, not only could I resist water, that's cool, but like the stuff I'm tearing into, I get new weaknesses, and like okay, Iron Hands wants to click Wild Charge into my Terra Rock Perior. My defenses are not just, I'm just gonna not die. Like, I don't think it's gonna do half. Like, because of Solid Rock, I don't think a Wild Charge is doing 50% to a Water Perior. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm underestimating Iron Hands. But in all honesty, I think Solid Rock, the point still stands that with Solid Rock and the ability to Terra out of the 2 4 times weaknesses you have, this Pokemon becomes a threat. You also have the added advantage of being slower than Ursaluna. Both Ursalunas in Trick Room. Not that I think this is like an Ursaluna replacement or an Ursaluna answer, but that's a niche that you do have if you do want to try and use this as a Trick Room sweeper, because it has all the tools to be a Trick Room sweeper, right? With this bulk on the physical side, it literally reminds me of Ursaluna, right? Like this looks like Ursaluna's stat distribution, you know? So it definitely can be that hard Trick Room sweeper, and when you get access to Rock Slide in Trick Room as well, you can just kind of flint things like that. You know, those last few turns of Trick Rooms are always so important. Having the ability to have Stab Rock Slide is never a bad thing. We've seen Arcanine, or Suin Arcanine specifically, shine with that Stab Rock Slide in Tailwind. So this is kind of that similar concept. Obviously, flinching people in Trick Room is a little bit less, like, it comes up less and doesn't require as much, but sometimes that last turn of Trick Room, I need to get that attack off. If I get flinched, I can't actually get enough damage into like maybe the Cresselia on the following turn. Either way, regardless, what I'm trying to say, I think Perior with Solid Rock is 100% being slept on. I am really excited to see this thing make a return. So next on the list, we are going to be taking a look at Primarina. Now, Primarina, in my eyes, has always been the more offensive Tapu Fini, or the Tapu Fini at home, so to speak. But it has a few things going for it that Tapu Fini doesn't have. Now, we are uncertain if Tapu Fini is coming back into this DLC, if there's going to be anything else like that. So, right now, we've got Primarina. We're going to talk about Primarina. And Water Fairy typing, incredibly, incredibly strong. But I think what Primarina, and what really intrigues me about Primarina in the DLC right now, is Liquid Voice, the fact that so many Pokemon have lost Scald, and the ability to Terra. So we're going to talk about Hyper Voice, Liquid Voice first. And Liquid Voice is an ability that turns Primarina's sound-based moves into a water move. Now, with Pokemon losing Scald very often, we're not sure, obviously, if Primarina is going to get Scald, if certain other Pokemon water types that are coming back are going to get Scald as well. We're not certain. And because we're not certain of that, Hyper Voice is a very interesting way to become a strong water option. Right? Normally you want that neutral water damage, right? Killing water is very, very weak in comparison to what Scald ever was. So it's not really a great substitute. Whereas Hyper Voice, it's going to be doing very strong spread damage, which, I mean, you can't argue, right? Obviously, it gets a little bit hindered because base 90 gets cut down because it's spread, right? So it's not like as strong, but it's probably sitting around like 70, still sitting at around 70-ish if my math is correct, but like maybe just a tad bit higher. But it's one of those moves that it can't get redirected now. It's still an incredibly strong option for water coverage, and then you can cap that off with like Moonblast. I don't know if you got Dazzling Gleam or Moonblast, but you definitely get a fairy move. I don't remember which one it was, but you probably get one, if not both, coming back into this generation. And let's just say Moonblast for now. I don't know which one you're going to get, but either way, Water Fairy coverage is incredibly strong. Defensively, it's in a great piece, and you have the stats to back it up, right? My main concern is the lack of physical bulk, right? 80-74 is not that great, especially into a meta with Iron Hands and Rillaboom. However, that's where I think being able to terrestrialize actually saves Primarina, because you would see this and be like, okay, the stats really aren't there. You'd want to utilize the 126, 116, but you don't have enough to capitalize on it. But that's where being able to tear out of your weaknesses, I think, saves Primarina. You're probably losing to Flutter Mains anyway, so you can actually afford to perhaps maybe going something like a Terra Dragon or a Terra Steel, right? Terra Steel could be cool, but I don't love it as much as Terra Dragon. I think Dragon is cool because then you're electric that normally hits you, you resist. Grass that normally hits you, you resist. Terra Dragon from a water type tends to be really, really strong, right? You also don't have to worry about necessarily losing to other dragons because you've got your fairy move and your fairy coverage and initial stab as well if you just don't Terra. And like I said, you're probably losing to Fluttermane anyway, so that's fine there, right? So what would normally scare you in those Iron Hands into Rillaboom, you might just be able to keep up with now if you're able to go Terra Dragon. Obviously, I don't think it's as crazy as it is, but I do think Primarina deserves to see some usage, and it's definitely not getting nearly as much hype as other Pokemon, and I think you're going to see it, especially early on. People are definitely going to be interested in trying this piece out, and I do think it has a chance of like sticking into the meta, because there's not that many fairy types, so having a fairy type that's not Fluttermane potentially be good. Like you see Sylveon with some niche usage sometimes. Same is going to be with the Primarina, right? You're going to see some niche usage there. Just having that other option feels incredibly strong, right? Like I said, the middling speed tier is a little annoying. The defenses are weird, but I do think it can capitalize off of Terra and the niche of having Liquid Voice and spread decently damaging output, 100% accurate water moves. I think are Primarina strong suits. Also, bonus benefit of just double resisting both Urshifus, or sorry, not double, but like just resisting both Urshifus entirely. Just, you know, obviously, like I said, those defenses are where it hurts, right? Because yes, you resist them, but Urshifu just hits so hard. Are you really going to be able to keep up? Only time will tell there, but I do think Primarina is a very cool niche pick. Now, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one because people are going to be like, oh, this isn't a niche pick. It's a Metagross, Ryan. Come on. But I'm really not going to talk about Metagross that long. But I have seen so much conversation about whether or not Metagross is still going to be good. And I am going to address one thing and one thing only. First off, Bullet Punch without a boosting item cannot kill a decently bulky Fluttermane, which is a very big concern for Metagross. Secondly, Metagross is built. The way Metagross is built, it is built as a good Pokemon. I don't think there's a format where you're going to say Metagross is allowed and you're not going to see somebody trying Metagross. However, I do think Metagross is not going to be that great this format. Are we going to see it? Yes, because Clear Body is incredible. Are we going to see it the same way we used to? Absolutely not, right? We used to see those self-proc bulldozes, right? And stuff like that. I don't think you're going to see that. I don't think Metagross can keep up in a format like that anymore. I think you're going to want to be able to take advantage of its like typing offensively, but also being able to be defensive. Whether or not that's tearing into a defensive typing, maybe just going Terra Steel and sending bullet punches. You really don't know anymore, right? How good this Pokemon is really going to be. I don't think it's going to be amazing, but the fact of the matter is, and the one thing my main selling point here is Metagross is built to be a good Pokemon. So I think it's just built to be because of that, it's going to see usage. Whether or not it's amazing amounts of usage or a little bit of usage or just a niche pick, you are going to see Metagross, right? People are going to be trying this piece. It is built to be a good Pokemon. You are going to see it. Whether or not, to what extent, completely up in the air. But I did want to touch upon Metagross really quickly because I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, it's going to be terrible, or oh, it's going to be amazing. But I think it's really going to be one of those things that, and I hate to say format dependent, but like I don't think it's gonna like be like, yes, Metagross is an immediate threat. It's really gonna have to wait and see what the meta develops into. And then I think, because like I said, it's built to be a good Pokemon. I think it's gonna find usage. It's just a matter of where it's gonna find that usage, because there's a lot of better steel types nowadays as well. Gonna keep things going really briefly on this one actually with Superior. I don't think there's much to be said about it. Obviously, you don't have the amazing stats that you would normally have on like a starter Pokemon. Like, I'm not too sold on Superior stats. I think Superior's one and only option is Leaf Storm. And, you know, Leaf Storm contrary is really, really strong. It always has been. It's one of the few Pokemon that gets access to it outside of a Lurantis. But Superior is actually built to be that special attacker, right? Obviously, 75 special attack sucks. It's not amazing. But once you get to +2, it's probably perfectly fine. And I think Terrestrialization helps Superior in a way where it gives it that little bit of extra edge, because before, you know, you'd find a way to stop Superior from the steamroll, like, you know, you bring in your Flare Blitz user, or, you know, maybe a flying type, right? So maybe now with the ability to tear out of that, if your play to stop Superior is to simply just outpace me and stop my steamroll, well, what if I just live your Flare Blitz by going Terra Water, or live your flying type by flying move by going Terra Steel? Obviously, there's room for debate on what the Terra type is. I didn't really do any pre-existing work on that, but then all of a sudden they don't kill you. Then you get your steamroll going with Leaf Storm, right? I feel like that's where the bread and butter is with Superior, finding some way to just get the steamroll going with your Leaf Storm and your Contrary, because without that, you've really got nothing. You do outpace Urshifu, I believe. Yes, you do outpace Urshifu naturally with Modest as well, which is really, really cool. But that to me is the bread and butter of Superior. That is the one spot that it has. No one's really talking about this piece. I do think there is an option for it. I don't know how much you're going to see it, but I do think it's going to potentially be there and be cool. Okay, we're going to, second last one on the list. I promise we're almost done. Second last one on the list is going to be Hitmontop. And, you know, Hitmontop is one of those Pokemon that has just seemingly gotten worse and worse over the years. But it used to be built so good. You know, it had some decent defenses. Its HP was a little bit of a crime. But, like, you know, you fix that by going something like along those lines. You get some decent defenses. You can do some damage. The problem with Hitmontop is I do think it is fully, entirely outclassed now. I don't think it's ever going to keep up with the likes of Incineroar, or even in this case Iron Hands, because Hitmontop had the niche of being that fighting type fake out user, you know? Hitmontop doesn't have that anymore. I mean, you get fake out still. Presumably you're going to get fake out. Presumably you're also going to keep things like, I believe you got Wide Guard as well, which kind of gives it maybe a chance over Incineroar and Iron Hands. I don't think you're going to see much of it, guys. I do still think I wanted to talk about it, though, because it's still Hitmontop. I've always wanted Hitmontop to be good. It's like Scrafty, you know? To me, like, Hitmontop and Scrafty are like, when I started playing this game, those were the intimidators. You know, they've got special spots in my heart. But I sadly, even with Terra, I mean, yeah, okay, maybe you go Terra Steel Bullet Punch stuff, right? Is that cool? Is that good enough? Probably not, right? I don't think that's good enough. If Metagross isn't KOing Fluttermanes with a Bullet Punch, I'm pretty confident Hitmontop is not KOing Fluttermanes with a Bullet Punch. But, right, maybe that's what it needs. Maybe Terra, I don't think it gets there. I think the stats are a little bit lackluster. It definitely did get speed crept, unfortunately. I don't really want to spend too much time on Hitmontop, but hey, it is a cool Intimidate mon. It does get fake out. It is making a return, so maybe it can do something. I wanted to highlight it a little bit. Like I said, it's got that special spot in my heart for Hitmontop. And to close the list off is possibly my spiciest pick, I guess you can call it, on the list. But probably my hottest of takes, and it's going to be Tintino. And the problem with Tintino in the past was I can't have my multi-hit moves hit 5 times and get the value of Technician. Well, look no farther than Loaded Dice, because now you have Technician. Now you have Loaded Dice making those multi-hit moves. Hit 4 or 5 times guaranteed. And you get stuff like Tail Slap. You get Bullet Seed. And if I am correct, you did used to get Rock Blast. Don't quote me on this one. Once again, it might lose it coming into this generation. But if I'm correct, it did used to get it. And this is very, very cool, right? And whether or not it holds up in the meta is yet to be seen. Obviously, these stats, I'm going to be honest, Tintino, your stats kind of suck. But you have the ability to go fast. Your base 115, which is never necessarily a bad thing, right? You have some decent stuff to hit. You pair this with some Tailwind support, you could probably hit things pretty hard before they hit you. Now, once again, is this going to be the savior of the format? Is this going to dominate the format? Absolutely not. I don't think anything on this list is. This list was really just to spark some interest and to spark some ideas and creativity on some of those Pokemon that aren't necessarily seen as much in VGC but could still serve that niche. And I think Quintino fits that role perfectly, right? Do I think it's going to be surviving hits? Absolutely not. Do I think it has a chance to maybe hit some things hard with Loaded Dice, Bullet Seed, Rock Blast, Tail Slap? Yeah, I do think it does. Maybe you go Terra normal Tail Slap. That probably hits pretty hard as well. It's one of those ones where I feel like it's just going to end up being so close to being good. And then it's just going to suck. You know, as much as I want to believe in it, I did want to mention it because I do think it's a really cool mon to mention. It's a really cool thing with the Technician into Loaded Dice now. I just don't think it's quite there even after that. But it's probably usable now. It used to not be usable in my opinion. But now it's at least, at the very least, usable. And, you know, have fun with your mouse. Maybe they'll give it Pop Bomb. Yes, no, maybe. Maybe they'll give it Population Bomb and then it'll actually be good. Okay, I'm telling you right now, if they give this thing like Population Bomb and you can go Skill Link Population, would that even work? I don't think that works. So like if you can go Technician Population Bomb, that's kind of cool. Like that's going to hit like a truck. We've seen it work with Mousehold. So I could see it with Centino. They're not going to give it Population Bomb, guys, though I am on some serious copium if I think they're going to give it Population Bomb. But with that, that is going to wrap up my list of the top niche picks for this format coming up. And obviously they're returning, and I say niche picks for a reason, guys, because they're not going to be meta defining, right? Metagross on this list or Perior probably have the best chances of being meta defying, maybe with Primarina as well. I'm kind of holding out hope for that one, but it's one of those ones where because they're not going to be meta defining, no one's really talking about them, and I wanted to talk about them being able to be returning in the Indigo Disc that is now only probably less than 24 hours away from when this video is actually going to go up. So wanted to feature some of these guys, showcase them a little bit, spark some interest, spark some creativity. But with that, I am going to get on out of here. Thank you all so much for checking out the video, and with that, I will catch you all in a future video.